On July 2nd, we were greeted with UFC 276, a card that was expected to be one of the most electric cards of the year so far. And honestly, we could say that it fell a little bit flat on its face. International Fight Week, we had two championship bouts on there. We had prospects coming through the ranks. A lot to see. But what were the biggest takeaways from that fight card? Stay tuned to find out. One of my biggest takeaways from this fight card was Du Plessis. Honestly, fight of the night candidate, throwing bombs, haymakers. But one of the things I noticed about how he fought was he was willing to take a lot of damage to give damage. Brad Tavares was hitting him with some very solid shots in the early round, and I honestly felt like Brad Tavares was going to take the fight before Du Plessis kind of started using his length and just catching Brad with the shots on the back end, kind of just catching him with the edge of the punches rather than trying to get into range and hit solidly. He was just catching him with overhand and gravity type punches and was able to cause a lot of damage to Brad Tavares' face, leading to a unanimous decision win. Brad, a super tough competitor, stayed in there for the whole fight, was able to get it to a decision. Unfortunately, came up on the tough side. But what it showed me more than anything is that Du Plessis, though exciting, needs to work on a lot of his damage control. Right? He called for Kevin Gastelum, which I guess was a fight they had set up previously. I think that would be a nice fight for him, but I do believe Kevin Gastelum would play to his advantage, where he's a bit of a wrestler. He would get into he'd get into Du Plessis' space and kind of make it difficult for him to do a lot of the things he did against Brad Tavares. He said anybody in the top 10 will be a good shot for him as well. We kind of waited a week and a half to make this video to see if anything would get announced. I haven't seen anything yet, but I feel like anybody in the top 10 would be able to work him with the way he fights. A good fight for him, honestly, would be Darren Till. I'm not sure if that's worth Darren Till's name value, but based on the track that Darren Till has been on lately, he could use a fight like that, and I would have Darren Till actually dominating a fight against Du Plessis. Second big takeaway from UFC 276 is that Ian Garry is mad talented. Quick, elite striking, speed. I do see a little bit of raw talent there. He hasn't completely honed in on his accuracy, but he was putting in a lot of work against a guy that was very dangerous in there. I think he does need to sharpen his skills. Again, not even a big name on the UFC's website as of yet, but remember the name Ian Garry, the next big prospect. I know he's going to get references to Conor McGregor because he's of Irish heritage. He said that Conor kind of helped him get into the sport. But he reminds me a lot more of Israel Adesanya with the height, with the striking ability. And he does seem to have a little bit more pop on his punches for the division he's in. So stay tuned for a guy like Ian Garry. Another takeaway from this whole card is Sean O'Malley still needs to be tested. Yes, he had the fight against Pedro Munoz. It stopped in a no contest eye poke. But before that, Sean O'Malley was looking pretty crisp. Again, similar to the Chito Vera situation. He was looking pretty crisp. He was landing his shots. Not many shots were being landed on him, but something took place to change the look of the fight and not really play into Sean O'Malley straight up winning the fight. Against Chito, he got hit with a very, Chito says calculated, Sean says lucky hit that kind of shut his leg off, leading to injury, leading to the kind of a dead foot situation. Chito Vera pounced and won that fight. And in this fight, Sean allegedly hit a little bit of a below the belt shot. Sean said it was a body shot. And then he eye poked Pedro Munoz, where the eye did swell up. Pedro Munoz came out the day after saying that it was very horrible. He was seeing black out of that eye. And Sean saying that Pedro was looking for a way out. So we need another test for Sean. Staying in the top 10 would be smart. Giving him a Dominic Cruz would be good. I'm good. Obviously, Chito Vera is really high up in the rankings, but I feel like that would still be a good shout for Chito to take that fight. Sean O'Malley, though ranked 13, is viewed as one of the best prospects in the division. So to come back and be like, I actually took this guy out, no excuses this time, it would be worth it for Chito. And it would be a good shout for Sean to get back that loss on his record, even though he claims he's undefeated. And I think it would be a decent. Honestly, it could be a fight night fight. But when you have Sean O'Malley, it should be pay-per-view. And I'm good with that being the third fight on a pay-per-view. 3-rounders still. Cheeto's ranked 4, if I'm not mistaken. He should be looking at 5-round fights. But if it comes down to it, a 3-rounder with Cheeto Vera won't be the worst thing in the world for Sean. That would be a good thing for him to get that L back and prove that he's actually of the talent level that we're projecting him to be, not just, a flash in the pan fun fighter. I see a lot of potential in Sean. We just need to see that come out in these fights. Next, Alex versus Izzy might as well be signed. I waited again a week and a half to make this video, hoping that this fight would be announced. Everything in the background is that they're trying to discuss dates, planning it. It's obviously the next thing on the card for Izzy and Alex Pereira. Pereira, though only in the UFC for about 3 fights, took care of Sean Strickland in electrifying fashion. So the test that was sent out there by the UFC, Pereira passed with flying colors, putting Sean Strickland in the highlight reel, catching him with that beautiful left check hook. Izzy, on the other hand, had a very boring championship fight. On a card where his rival was fighting and he really needed to show out, he fought very technically, very soundly to keep the belt, belt over theatrics, even though he came out to the Undertaker theme. But it was very disappointing when you see the guy that he's supposed to be fighting next start Sean Strickland in under a minute and a half, if I'm not mistaken. Right? So it's all but announced. Alex versus Izzy. Izzy hopefully having the opportunity to regain his I don't want to say confidence, but to redo the wrong that was done when he got put out by Alex Pereira. He's lost to Alex Pereira, I think, twice in his Glory Kickboxing career. Alex Pereira has dominated that field. 2 wins against Izzy and is coming for his UFC belt and everything that he's worked for in the UFC. I think is a beautiful storyline. I think it will send a ton of pay-per-views. Might end up being one of Israel Adesanya's highest selling pay-per-views. Just because of the storyline that could be attached to it and the kind of electrifying performances Alex Pereira has put out so far since being in the UFC. So stay tuned for that. It will be a good test for the champ. And I think Alex Pereira has shown enough to us as fight fans to get that fight. And then finally, Volkanovski. Alexander Volkanovski, there could be no question marks anymore. I would like to be the first to apologize. I had Alexander Volkanovski losing this fight to Max Holloway, or at least it being a lot closer than it was. But Alexander Volkanovski turned up the pace, made Max Holloway look like he shouldn't even be in the ring with him when Max Holloway has dominated this division for so many years. What's next for a guy like Alexander Volkanovski? There's nothing much at that division currently. There's talks of him fighting whoever wins the Yara Rodriguez-Ortega fight. I think that's coming up. He's thinking about doing the double champ thing, hopefully, going up a weight class to fight and take that belt. I think that's pretty much all that's left for Volk. He could definitely go up to like a lightweight and challenge for that belt, whether it be whoever comes out of a Charles Oliveira to be announced fight, or if they let it be Michael Chandler versus somebody for that belt. Right now, the belt's vacant, so who knows? It could be Oliveira versus Volkanovski straight up for that vacant belt. I think double champ is the only thing that's left for him to do. He has shown enough. Henry Cejudo kind of semi-called out Volk in this fight, post-fight, saying that he would love to share the ring with him. I don't think that's a good shout for either fighter. I think Henry Cejudo would unfortunately get worked by Volk's speed and strength. He also called out Sean, which actually I would love that for Suga as well, for him to fight a Henry Cejudo coming off a long layoff. It would be a high selling. They're definitely main event that pay-per-view. It'd be a lot of money for both fighters, which is my biggest thing, pay the fighters. But yeah, I think Volk's best opportunity right now to keep cementing his legacy is to go ahead and try to double champ that belt. Go ahead, go up and get that lightweight and then defend both. That'll be elite for his legacy. And that has been the 5 takeaways we took from UFC 276. I'd like to thank all you guys for the support. Keep liking, subscribing, and sharing. And I'll catch y'all on the next UFC video. Peace.